Hey friend, it's me Vasco with a quick announcement. We at the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast are organizing this year's Scrum Master Summit. For tickets and details on the summit, check out the URL bit.ly/SM Summit 22. All one word, SMSUMMIT 22. And now, on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Friday TGIF and Product Owner episode this week with Nick Nilsson. Hi, Nick. Welcome back.
Hi, that's cool.
Nick, on Fridays, we dive into the good and bad examples of the product owner role, in the product owner role, rather. We'll end with a good example later on, but let's start with a bad example. What was for you, Nick, potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career?
So I was a little split on this one.
There are so many, right?
Yeah, you did. You said that, not me. But I think I will go with the one, losing focus on value.
Translate that for us. What do you mean?
So the main goal of a product owner, as I view it, is to ensure that the team can potentially deliver value. And I know some product owners can lose focus on that.
What does that look like in practice? Like, what happens when a product owner loses focus on value?
It could be, we have gotten a product description. This is the product that we are going to build, and we've gotten that from somewhere in the business. We've been handed the requirement specification, or the product owner has been handed the requirement specification, and then we stop asking, who is this for? How will it add value? Why are we creating everything? Which order should we create in? What part of the product or backlog adds most value? I think for me and the case here is also, forgetting that there's a huge difference between the user and the customer. I think that's a conundrum that we sometimes forget about. So you might talk to the customer, but the customer is actually maybe not the most important person. That's actually the user, right?
Can you give an example of what that would look like so that people understand what you mean by the difference between customer and user?
So it could be that a potential customer could be the owner of a plant, right? Someone who owns an entire plant, and we can promise him something that he thinks, and I'll not go into complete details, but we can promise him something that he thinks, or that will be great, on paper for his plant. It will save him money, and he's the customer, right? And if we just approach him with an idea and a one-liner, he'll be like, I would definitely buy that. But if we then actually show the prototype to like a facility manager or plant manager, the one who would be using the software or the product, he would be like, this has no value or use for me. In my use case is X, and I know a lot of other plant managers, their use case is Y, and your product fits neither of those use cases. So I would never use it. On paper, I would buy it because it sounds great, but I would never use it. And if you forget to ask those questions, right, you can spend up for years creating a product that the customer would buy, but the user would never use. And especially in a world where we're moving away from one-off purchases to subscriptions, someone could subscribe for a month and then be like, but we're never using it, so why should we prolong this subscription? And that is, you lose of course users, but as a brand, you also lose brand value, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a great addition to this story, right? Like the business model may make this attention to the difference between customers and users critical to the point of helping the company fail or go bankrupt because we stopped paying attention to the users and we were only interested in the number of contracts created. But of course, the contracts are only valid for a certain time and then they don't get renewed. And that means you lose a lot of value for you as the producer of the product.
Exactly.
Another example of this lack of attention to the user, which I see very often, happens in other types of products like business-to-business products. Even simple things. Many of us will be familiar with the fact that, when you go to work, you're working on a Windows computer because it fits IT and what IT needs. But when you go home, you're playing around with a tablet and a mobile phone because that fits you, that fits what you need, right? And a lot of people do a lot of their emailing, as an example, on the phone or the tablet because that's easier and better than doing it on an unwieldy, sometimes slow, and of course bloated PC at work. And that is a great example that for us as software producers, many of us are here in the audience, for us as software producers, illustrates a key example of how losing sight of the user can destroy value for companies. And we see that as the big mammoth of software, Microsoft, has completely lost the mobile game.
Yeah, and that's also something that we have to take into account in Grundfos. So for example, if we get in a potential product, you could assume, yes, of course, it should be a mobile application or a web application running on a mobile. But then we work with a lot of businesses where you might not be allowed to bring a smartphone into a factory, for example. That could be regulatory. You're not allowed to take pictures. Could also be something around interference with different types of connectivity and stuff. Then your application is useless because you cannot bring the smartphone into the plant. So that is another example of you might think you know the user, but you don't know the users every day.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great reminder. Nick, now we turn our attention to the opposite of this, the mirror image, which might have been potentially the best product owner you've ever worked with. Describe them for us.
Yeah. So I'm also fortunate to work with a lot of good product owners. And I think the key characteristic of a good product owner is a willingness to learn. So I think very few product owners are, fresh out of university and it's their first job. So they will have been working as maybe a scrum master or some sort of a business person or project manager beforehand. So a willingness to accept that this is a new role and go on that learning journey and keep being on the journey, right? It's not just that you take a product owner certification. I sort of I think of certifications more like awareness courses. Everyone can be, especially a product owner, because some certifications you don't even need to take a test. It's basically you attend for 2 days and they're like, God bless you, you're now a product owner, go and have fun. I think it's the start of the learning journey. So embracing that is the main characteristic, I think, for a great product owner. And then I'm fortunate to work with especially one guy who is I would say a cultural builder. He
What do you
builds
mean by that?
Yeah, so he builds this culture of being agile, not only in my organization but for the entirety of Grundfos. And he does that by sharing success. One thing is, of course, we need to talk about our failures and so on, and failing fast, the learning, all of those buzzwords. But sometimes we also, especially in a transformation and a change, need to say, hey, we did something that was super cool and had a lot of success with it. And even if that means putting yourself on the line, making a video and sharing that with the entire organization, then it's also about realizing that a team is not for utilization. A team is an ecosystem, and that ecosystem has a culture, right? And you need to help, of course, with the Scrum Master. You need to nurture that, and also part of sharing the successes is bridging across the organization. As a product owner, you're not an island. You are part of a big ecosystem, and in an organization like Grundfos, that potentially means a lot of touch points going outside of our digital organization. And then I would say the last part about building culture is being a visionary. You know, trying to guide where you see the team moving. And of course, this is something you do along with the team. But where should we be in a year? And I think that is extremely difficult because you need to hit the right level of detail, right? So you can't put everything in stone because the world changes. And I think a great product owner manages, doing that, but without the vision becoming too fluffy.
Yeah, and making it inspiring and, at least for me, something that drives action, right? Like I look at the vision, I know what to do now, right? Like it creates what I call a generative vision. It generates ideas just by reading through the vision in our context. We start to see how it applies.
Yeah, and also having a culture, right, sort of means we have an agreed way of how we would do things. So if I'm faced with a decision, I can think about our vision, I can think about us as a cultural unit, and actually make the decision on my own.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great and inspiring definition of what a great product owner could look like. So thank you for sharing that, Nick. We're getting close to the end, but before we do go, do share with us, where can we find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
I have a Twitter handle. I think it's at Agile Handyman. Unfortunately, I don't use Twitter a lot, but feel free to hit me up on Twitter, or you can also find me on LinkedIn by searching, I think, for Nick Nielsen and maybe Grundfos.
Absolutely. And we'll put the links on the show notes so that people can easily find Nick, and why not ask some follow-up questions after listening to these episodes this week. Nick, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Of course, Vasco. Thank you for having me.
Hey friends, it's Vasco again, now with a bit longer announcement. I'm part of the team that is behind the Global Scrum Master Summit, the conference dedicated to the Scrum Master role. If you're a Scrum Master, the Scrum Master Summit is the place to learn, to share, and of course to meet new friends. We will have lots of live sessions where you can meet and network with other Scrum Masters from the whole globe. So make sure you check it at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. We have several amazing keynotes and 7 tracks that feature people like you and of course thought leaders sharing their insights, their knowledge, and helping you become an awesome Scrum Master. You can check out all of the details of the summit, including the keynotes announced, the track chairs, and much more at bit.ly/SM Summit 22. That's all one word. That's bit.ly/SM SUMMIT and the numeral 22. I'll see you on the conference floor.